Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 5 MLB player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's MLB slate. But first, before we dive into today's picks, a quick little recap of how we did last night. And overall, guys, the good times, they just keep on rolling. 2-0 last night. We did originally hand out 4 player props. Unfortunately, Carlos Correa and Max Kepler, both those games got postponed due to rain. But of the 2 player props that still were active, Andrew Abbott and Ben Williamson, both cash for us. So it's another 2-0 performance. We're now on a 20-4 run since last Monday. So phenomenal run here. We scrolled down below to the record. We're now 55-43 in our single bet category. We're up over a unit profit. So we're officially profitable in our single bet category. I'm thinking of maybe increasing the unit soon because we've been on such a good run. We've been doing 3/4 of a unit. Maybe I'll start going up to a full unit on these plays. But obviously, that's where we got into some trouble early in the year. So we'll still be cautious with our unit displacement. But overall, we're on a phenomenal run. And let's just keep these good times rolling. We got 5 more player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's MLB slate. And we've got absolutely no time to waste. So without further ado, let's dive right into today's picks. Jumping right into the outlier screen, guys, our first player prop is a redo from yesterday's video. We have Cardinals, Phillies, 1:05 p.m. first pitch. We're going Max Kepler of the Philadelphia Phillies under 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're grabbing this for -118 over on BetMGM. We went through all this data yesterday, but I will go ahead and go through it one more time for you guys. So we've got Max Kepler, 7 of his last 10 games. He's cashed the under, averaging 1.6 HRRs per game over his last 10 games. Go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view. You have a 61% hit rate on this under. 23 out of 38 games this year, he's cashed the under, averaging 1.66 hits, runs, RBIs per game this year. So pretty solid data across the board. Also in the head-to-head department, 5 consecutive matchups with the St. Louis Cardinals dating back to last season. He's cashed the under, averaging just 0.4 hits, runs, RBIs per game across the last 5 matchups with St. Louis. And honestly, they played 3 times this year so far. 0-3 on the over, 3-0 on the under. So really good numbers so far this year. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. By the way, guys, shout out to Outlier, the best sports betting tool on the market. This 20-4 run that we're on right now would not be possible without the help of Outlier. And actually, we're technically on a 43-18 run. We want to go ahead and expand it a little bit. So we've been a red hot for the last month or so, and it wouldn't be possible without Outlier. It's the best sports betting tool on the market. The link is down below in the description. 7-day free trial to check it out for yourself. Everything you're seeing in all these videos comes from Outlier. I use Outlier primarily, and actually pretty much only at this point, for my research. And I'm telling you guys, it's fantastic. So if you want to be like me and just go on this crazy hot run, you're going to have Outlier by your side. So check it out. Link down below in the description. 7-day free trial. Shout out to Outlier for sponsoring today's video and all of our player prop videos here on the channel. Max Kepler has failed to exceed 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 7 of his last 8 games, averaging just 0.9 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 8. So it's an 88% hit rate over his last 8 games. So phenomenal data really across the board on this player prop. Now, although this is the same player prop as yesterday, it's not the same pitching matchup as yesterday, but the pitching matchup is still pretty solid. Max Kepler versus Eric Fedde. So it's 2018, very small sample size, just 2 plate appearances since then. He does have 1 hit and an RBI off of him in one of those 2 plate appearances, but very small sample size, hard to really go off of that. We talked about this yesterday. Kepler, 229 batting average. It doesn't really change whether he's facing off with right-handed pitchers or left-handed pitchers. It's consistently the same. WRC plus does increase slightly versus right-handed pitchers. It does slightly increase a little bit. But, you know, it's still pretty good numbers there. And then Eric Fedde, who's having a solid year overall versus left-handed batters. ERA, batting average allowed, home runs per 9, and WOBA. All solid drops in all those key categories. So it seems to be a pretty solid matchup across the board. This was supposed to be a player prop yesterday. I'm going to test my luck and see if I had the right idea yesterday and run it back in today's video. So that's our first player prop in today's slate. Moving on to our second player prop in today's slate. But before we dive into the data on this prop, guys, I want to give you guys a special shout out to all the people watching. We appreciate you guys who watch through each and every single video here on the channel, especially my MLB videos. We put a lot of hard work into these, so those who do stick around and watch through, really do appreciate you guys. If you are watching today's video at this point, comment hottest man alive, because right now it kind of feels like I'm the hottest man alive. 20-4 run, 43-18 over the last month and a half. incredible run here on our MLB Player Props. We came from the depths of hell, basically, and came battling back, and now we are well above 500, 55 and 43 on the year in our single bet category. So comment hottest man alive and spread the word to your friends. Let everyone know Tasso is the best there is. Yeah, I'm gonna put my stake right now because that's how hot we've been lately. Watch me suck ass today, but we have been red hot. Let your friends know if you want to make money betting player props. I'm the guy you come to because I won't, well, except for the early parts of the year, lead you in the wrong direction. So comment hottest man alive down below. Our second player prop in today's slate, we're moving on to the Diamondbacks Giants game, 3:45 p.m. first pitch. We're going Lourdes Gurriel Jr., and you know I suck with name pronunciation. Over half a strikeout, -145 over on DraftKings is what we're grabbing it for. Now, the overall season data actually is okay. It's not great. The recent data is where this prop shines. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 1 strikeout per game. But the overall numbers, 49% hit rate on the season. So just shy of half the time he cashes the over. He's averaging 0.59 strikeouts per game this season. So like I said, recent numbers, really strong. Overall numbers could be better. And in the head-to-head category, though, which is a pretty decent sample size versus the Giants, really phenomenal numbers. 8 of his last 11 matchups with the Giants, he's cashed the over. That's a 73% hit rate against San Francisco, averaging 0.82 strikeouts per game across the last 11 matchups with the Giants. And if you really want to focus in here, 7 of his last 8 matchups with San Francisco, he's cashed the over, including 4 consecutive and 2 so far this year. So pretty good numbers across the board here in the head-to-head department. That really kind of makes this player prop, in my opinion. Now looking down below, Lourdes versus Jordan Hicks, 9 plate appearances since 2018. 2 strikeouts in that time, so a 22.2% strikeout rate. Again, not the largest sample size in the world, but good enough. And you also have the insight provided by Outlier, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., has exceeded half a strikeout in 5 of his last 6 games on the road, averaging 1 strikeout per game over his last 6 road games. And then looking down below at the key matchup stats, his batting average, which is not great this year, does drop to 207. His strikeout percentage slightly increases to 14.3, which you'd like it to be a little bit higher, but it's not bad. The fact that he's not hitting as well versus right-handed pitchers does play into our hands here a little bit. But Jordan Hicks, 22% strikeout rate versus right-handed batters, 3.1 strikeouts per walk. Like really good numbers, honestly, for Jordan Hicks, where I think Hicks' numbers and the fact that we have the solid head-to-head data, the little run that he's on right now, I think although his strikeout rate for Lourdes Gurriel is not super high at 14.3%, you could definitely be higher. I think it's a pretty solid player prop. -145 for a reason. I still think it's pretty valuable here. All right, guys, our third player prop in today's slate. Sticking with the strikeout player props, we got Rays, Blue Jays, 7:07 p.m. first pitch. We're going Travis Jankowski of the Tampa Bay Rays over half a strikeout. We're also grabbing this one for -145 over on DraftKings. Same odds as we just grabbed the last player prop for. And again, this one, recent data, very strong. 7 of his last 10 games, including 6 of his last 7. He's cashed the over, averaging 0.8 strikeouts per game over his last 10 games. When you do go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view, you know, again, not crazy. He hasn't played a lot of games, 16 games played this year, but 9 out of 16, he cashed the over. That is a 56% hit rate, so not bad from an overall standpoint as well. So solid recent data, solid overall data, and then from a head-to-head perspective, you see very small sample size, but he did play Toronto last night, and he did have a strikeout in that game. So again, not a lot to go off of in the head-to-head department, but they did play yesterday, and he did strike out. So we do have that going for us, I guess. But overall, the data is pretty solid. Again, like I mentioned, Travis Jankowski, 6 of his last 7 games, he's cashed the over, averaging a strikeout per game over his last 7 games. But this right here is really why I like the player prop. Now, again, you have a very small sample size for Jankowski. He's only had 42 plate appearances this year, but 23.8% strikeout rate. Remember the last player prop I told you 14.3 wasn't that high? This is very high. And versus right-handed pitchers actually gets higher, 24.3%. Not a massive increase, but it is an increase. Parlay that with the fact that Chris Bassett, the pitcher for the Blue Jays, has a 26% strikeout rate versus left-handed batters. You really like to see that. When those two numbers are high in the green there, usually correlates to mean that there's going to be a strikeout in this game. 24.3% for Jankowski, 26% for Chris Bassett. That right there just convinces me this is a good play prop. Mixed with the fact that, you know, he's cashed 8 of his last 10, 6 of his last 7. You know, pretty good numbers across the board. I like this player prop a lot as the third player prop in today's video. All right, guys, and our fourth player prop in today's slate, we're moving on to the Pirates-Mets game, 7:10 p.m. first pitch. We got Juan Soto, who's kind of led us astray this year, but I'm giving him another shot at redemption here. Juan Soto of the New York Mets over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're grabbing this one for -130 over on BetMGM. It is available on multiple sportsbooks for varying odds. Like I always say, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. But pretty good data on this prop, honestly. 7 of his last 10 games, Juan Soto has cashed the over, averaging 2.2 hits, runs, RBIs per game this year. And honestly, the overall numbers, Soto did not have a great start to the year, but honestly, especially when you look at this line, he actually has been pretty solid. 63% hit rate on the year, 27 out of 43 games. He's cashed the over, averaging 2.12 hits, runs, RBIs per game this year. So yes, he hasn't had, I guess, the best season by his own standards, but in terms of this betting line, it's actually been pretty solid for Juan Soto. Now, one could argue his line should be 2.5. I think it's more what he had last year, although last year 60%. So he's basically on par with what he did last year in terms of cashing this line, I should say. But I am 0-3 betting Juan Soto player props so far this year. He has been my kryptonite when it comes to betting on him. So I'm giving him another shot here, but if I lose this one, it could be a long time before I trust a Juan Soto player prop again. I don't have any players so far this year on the do not bet island. Juan Soto could potentially become the first. We'll see. In the NBA, I have like 8 guys stranded on that island right now. Baseball, nothing yet, but there's a couple of guys that are close. But in the head-to-head department, you do see 3 consecutive matchups with the Pirates. He's cashed the over, including both games of this series so far. So 2-0 so far this season in this series. So we obviously have that going for us. He's averaging 1.75 hits, runs, RBIs across the last 4 games with Pittsburgh. And on 4 straight games dating back to last year, he's recorded at least a hit against the Pirates. Looking down below the key matchup stats, Juan Soto versus Bailey Falter. 8 plate appearances in 2018, 375 batting average. So pretty good numbers against Bailey Falter. Again, not a huge sample size, but enough to go off of, I guess. The thing I'm really looking at, though, is Juan Soto versus left-handed pitchers this year. Now, much smaller sample size to his overall body of work, but his batting average increases from 255 to 353 when facing off with left-handed pitchers. So that's a massive increase. His WRC plus also a massive jump from 140.4 to 185.4. So really good numbers there. And then Bailey Falter, who's not having a terrible year versus left-handed batters. And again, similar to Juan Soto, much smaller sample size. Look at the increases in his numbers. ERA, close to doubles. Batting average allowed, massive from 232 to 351. His home runs per 9 from 1.2 to 2.1. His WOBA from 303 to 409. These are all significantly massive increases in all of his numbers. Parlay that with the fact that Juan Soto also has massive increases when he faces off with left-handed pitchers. It just kind of seems like this is a match made in heaven and a really solid player prop. And for minus 130 odds, I think it's phenomenal value. All right, guys, on our 5th and final player prop in today's slate, we have Royals, Astros, 8:10 p.m. first pitch. We got Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals over 1.5 total bases. We're grabbing that for minus 130 over on FanDuel. But again, it's available on a majority of sports books for varying odds. And the data is pretty solid overall. 6 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 2.7 total bases per game over his last 10. If we do look at the overall season numbers for Bobby Witt Jr., again, solid, nothing crazy, but solid numbers. 57% hit rate, 25 out of 44 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 1.98 total bases per game this year. So like I said, solid data, nothing that knocks your socks off necessarily, but pretty good across the board. And we do have a decent sample size for the head-to-head data versus Houston. But dating back to last year, 12 matchups, 8 out of 12 he's cashed the over. That's a 67% hit rate, averaging 2.67 total bases per game across the last 12 matchups with Houston. They played 5 times so far this year, and he's cashed the over in 4 out of 5. He actually cashed in 4 straight going into yesterday's game. Yesterday was the first time this year he failed to cash the over when playing the Astros. But really, really solid head-to-head data here. And again, the overall numbers are pretty decent. Now, unfortunately, we do not have any matchup data for the Astros pitcher. That's because Colton Gordon hasn't pitched yet this year. So we don't really have much to go off of. We just have Bobby Witt Jr.'s numbers here. And he's hitting 319. Obviously, his numbers across the board are phenomenal. Versus left-handed pitchers, again, much smaller sample size. His numbers all drastically increased. Batting average from 319 to 393. His BABIP from 366 to 440. His ISO does drop a little bit, but his extra base hit percentage also goes up slightly to 45.5. Not having the pitcher matchup stuff is challenging, but the fact that you have a pitcher who hasn't pitched yet this year, and it's Bobby Witt Jr. who's having this much success versus left-handed pitchers, I think him getting a big hit, whether that be a double or a home run or whatever, I think it's a pretty good bet. And for minus 130, I think it's pretty solid value for a guy who's cashing this at a 57% hit rate overall, a 67% hit rate head-to-head. And again, you have that pitcher matchup where you have a guy who hasn't pitched yet this year against a hitter who's batting 393 off of lefties. I think it's a pretty good matchup here for Bobby Witt Jr. That's our 5th and final player prop in today's video. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching one more time. Please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. We'll be back tomorrow with another MLB player prop video. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Wednesday, and let's go ahead and make some money. Let's stay hot, baby. Let's go.